Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys Star Wars The Clone Wars 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review. Today we're taking a look at General Kenobi. Now I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research, make sure you are comfortable before buying. I have popped a link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as a brand new Hot Toys Star Wars figure review goes live on the channel. As for the box art, front and center, we do have an image of the figure himself. This might be me being a little bit nitpicky, and I apologize in advance for that. But I would have preferred if they'd have used the LED saber for this shot. Then they could have photoshopped the lightsaber blade effect on after. Because there is no blue glow on this side of his face or on his chest armor. And the placement of the key light, if these highlights are supposed to be from the saber, that's not quite right either. It's not a massive deal. It's just the figure photography nerd in me is going a little bit crazy. We do have a metallic foil Star Wars logo down below, the blue and yellow Clone Wars color scheme glossy wraparound banner, with another image of General Kenobi on it, featuring him wearing his Phase 1 bucket. On the side of the box, another image of the figure himself. Notice how the lines for the mouth area on the Phase 1 bucket are really nice and thin and finally accurate? I wouldn't get too excited about that, because Hot Toys being Hot Toys, the prototype was right, the final product, maybe not so much. We'll just have to wait and see. Around the back, warnings, legal information, and Hot Toy store locations. The box art crimes continue. On the slipcover, this is a dope piece of artwork. Nobody's denying that. We've got General Kenobi facing off with General Grievous. And a lot of people thought, ooh, finally, we're getting a Hot Toys General Grievous. No, unfortunately not. This is an image of the Sideshow Premium Format General Grievous. And it's not even like they went out, got the Sideshow statue, took a picture of it, and then used it on their box art. It's literally a photo from the final product album of that release from Sideshow's website. Very lazy and very frustrating because a lot of us have been waiting patiently for a Hot Toys General Grievous. Maybe one day. First in-hand impressions for Obi-Wan Kenobi? So far so good. He feels surprisingly heavy actually. What we are going to do now is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Starting off with the display base first, which is using their most basic Star Wars base mold. I would have preferred some terrain from literally the Battle of Anywhere over this. We've been there, done that with the Republic-style flooring bases. At least there's some copper metallic dry brushing around the edges of the sculpted panels. For the nameplate, Star Wars and Obi-Wan Kenobi, then up top, an adjustable crotch grabber. When I saw the blogger pics for this guy, I was so disappointed with the helmet. I was like, surely they didn't. They went back to the thick mouth lines from the correct, thin ones on the prototype. And yes, this is what it looks like. It's just as inaccurate as all of Hot Toys' other Phase 1 helmets. So now, at least it matches. You can remove the visor, which is held on magnetically. I like that. You can also remove or bring down the antenna, but they forgot to paint the red light on the top of the fin. General Kenobi was announced prior to the release of the Ahsoka series. And at that point, we hadn't yet seen Hayden Christensen in all his glory in live action in the Clone Wars Anakin outfit. So that's why the mini hologram version of him has long hair and the cape on. It is cast in translucent plastic, and they've sculpted these horizontal lines on the surface to give it that janky TV scanline effect that Star Wars holograms have. You can remove the hologram from the hologram projector. There is unique sculpt work on both sides, and it's well painted for as small as it is. Just be careful of the prongs that stick off the main circular body because they are made of a relatively brittle plastic. The sculpt and paint on the macro binoculars is awesome. These things are microscopic, but there's sculpted buttons and the knurled little dial and the rivets around the front and the glossy lenses around the back and the detail on the bottom. I'm not sure if I'm ever going to display him holding these, but I'm glad they're here. Obi-Wan's episode 1 and 2 lightsaber hilt is cool. For me, it doesn't hit as hard as this lightsaber hilt sculpt does. The macro binoculars, they're brilliant. This is on an entirely different level. It's shiny and metallic where it needs to be, and the sculpt work is insane. We've got detail on the bottom, on the activation switch, and up the top for the emitter. Oh, and it is compatible with the regular straight blade and also the swooshing effect one, which has never made a ton of sense to me. It looks like he's just going like this forward and back constantly, because it's a uniform V taper all the way down and the port is in the middle. If this was accurate to anything, it would have a straight blade, then a curved trailing edge. They have fixed it with more modern releases, it's just that General Kenobi was announced before they fixed the swooshing effect blade. Now, the hilt does have multiple different CoverTech wheels. This is the longer one. It also comes with a shorter one that's not meant to be used with the hilt on his belt, whereas this one is. He does come with one of those stupid baselit lightsaber flashlights with the blue LED in the bottom of it. The hilt looks great. Everything else, not so much. There's a cable coming out of the bottom of it. It connects to the junction box, then the junction box to his back on this clip, or you can switch out the clip for this one, then it can connect to the crotch grabber. After that, you have to go and find a USB cable and a power supply, then connect it to the bottom of this and you can turn it on. If you are going to give us pieces that require USB-C cables, Hot Toys, you need to include the bloody cables. And lastly, we get some hands. The glove portion is painted in matte black, there's some wrinkling and stitching sculpted in, and the armor plates on the back of the hands are new for General Kenobi. There is some speckling of dirt and grime on the surface. So first off, we get 2 gripping hands. Then we get his iconic 2-finger pointing hand and a splayed out finger hand. Can someone tell me why the fingers are as bulky as they are? You can see those bulges. They look absolutely ridiculous to me. And already installed on him out of the box, 1 open palm hand and 1 trigger finger hand. Not 2 open palm hands, a trigger finger hand. For General Kenobi. Very strange. What we are going to do now, though, is get Obi-Wan himself out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. Hello there, General Kenobi. This figure is bloody brilliant. I've been waiting forever to get this look for Obi-Wan by Hot Toys in this scale. Other companies have given us statues and 6-inch figures, but never 1/6. Sideshow made the 2D Clone Wars Obi-Wan in their line back in the day, but still, it wasn't this outfit, and I'm just so freaking happy with how this guy turned out. He's not perfect, he's not without his flaws, we will discuss them. From a distance, the proportions look solid, the outfit is spot on to the animation, and the head sculpt, I can already tell, looks solid. Up close and personal, kicking things off with his head sculpt. Right off the bat, I like this sculpt. It's not perfect, but I think it is an improvement over the episode 3 one. If you prefer the sculpt on the right, I'm genuinely happy for you. I just think the likeness is stronger with the new one, and there's more skin texture and more surface detail. The moustache looks good, there's some volume to it, and you can make out the upper lip tucked underneath it. The fringe does hang over the forehead, so it casts a shadow on the forehead. And it's got moving eyes, which is the real icing on the cake for me personally. If you are wondering if you can pop the new head on the episode 3 body, technically, maybe, if you can fashion some kind of skin tone neck, because this is a 2-piece sculpt where the head is separate to the neck, versus the episode 3 one where it's a single piece sculpt. So out of the box, No, unfortunately, it's not compatible. I don't know how many people are going to put the head sculpt away, as beautiful as it is, and opt for a Phase 1 helmet instead. I know in the 2D Clone Wars he wore a Phase 1 helmet, but his armor didn't quite look like this. This is more accurate to the Sideshow Mythos statue and also the Black Series General Kenobi. You can remove the visor if you so choose, and you can also take off the antenna if you just want him wearing a standard looking Phase 1 bucket. Do be careful of the base of the helmet because it does sit very close to his fully painted skin tone neck. So when you're posing him, make sure you're not putting any pressure with the helmet onto the neck itself. Oh, and while we were discussing the helmet, I also popped the cape on. So this is what he looks like wearing it, both without and with the visor and antenna installed. I love how easy it is to detach the cape, by the way. It's just held on with magnets. You literally just pop it there, the magnets take over, and it sits in position. I reckon angles are this sculpt's best friend, because you can move the eyes around until you find a spot where the likeness is at its strongest. Having them off to one side just means that he looks a bit more dynamic, and you can adjust the expression simply by altering the eye position. This, for once, is a very solid cape by Hot Toys. There's this very prominent textured weave on the surface, it's tattered along the edges and the bottom, and it's wired in the plates. They went that route, I think, so that they could have the tattered edges, because if this was wired, it would have to be 2-ply, then they would have to stitch the edge, and the tatters wouldn't have been possible. The pleats are pre-stitched in, the top part is padded to bulk him out a little, and there are magnets around the back, and the buckles around the front are nicely sculpted and painted for as small as they are. I am tempted to go with the cape because General Kenobi in a cape and some clone trooper armor is sick. It's not his iconic look though, so unfortunately the cape has to go. The chest armor is made up of multiple pieces so that when you articulate him, the side panels can flare out a little. We've got the black line work and then the panels are painted in black on the inside, plus some speckling of dirt and grime on the surface of the armor. Back around the front, you can see how these pieces work, and you can push them down and in place if you want to close up the gaps. This chest plate is free floating. If you find it's riding a little bit high, it's attached on Velcro so you can remove it, slide it down further, then push it back in place. He does have the Jedi symbol on the left shoulder pad, but not the right, which is accurate to Clone Wars. The weathering does continue, but just on the armor, which is strange considering Episode 3 Obi-Wan did have some airbrush shading on his tabards. Whereas for Clone Wars Obi, his robes are significantly cleaner. We do have the brown fabric sash underneath the belt, and the belt does seem to be made of pleather, which isn't ideal. I'm hoping it stands the test of time, we'll just have to wait and see. His lightsaber hilt does come with multiple CoverTech wheels. The longer one is meant to be used when you slot it into the clip on his belt. And it sits in there very securely. If you push it all the way down, I don't think it's going anywhere. Underneath the robes and the armor, he does have a ribbed fabric clone bodysuit on, so this is one of those figures that you can pose the shit out of, and you don't have to worry about creasing or damage. His skirt flaps for the tabards, including the central one, they're all wired, so you can have these pieces billowing off in the wind if you want to. Underneath them, just the plain old black clone ribbed bodysuit. I'm 99% sure the knee pads, the calf armor, the forearm guards, the bicep guards, the shoulder pads, and the chest plate, all of that is new for General Kenobi. The only reuse that I can spot probably be the hands minus the armor plating and the feet. They look like generic clone trooper boots to me, all the way down to the sculpted tread on the underside. If you're curious how the moving eyes work, the head sculpt is just on this little clip mechanism. Then you can reach up inside the sculpt and you can move the eyes around. If you want to use the included tool, that's also an option. I don't think it's entirely necessary. This is so much easier. Just use your finger. The LED USB-C powered light up lightsaber is okay at best. To get here is a faff. You have to thread the cable through the armor and the instructions tell you how to do it, but I'm just literally not going to bother because I do not want to dismantle my General Kenobi. Then you have to install the junction box on his back by clipping it to his belt, and it doesn't want to stay there, or you can connect it to the crotch grabber. And lastly, you have to manage a very thick USB-C cable, which isn't even actually included. So for me, I'm not going to bother with this. You can if you want to, and yes, the light-up lightsaber also works with the swooshing effect blade. I always see comments asking for this, and I never understand why, because how many of you are displaying your figures in pitch black just so that the lightsaber blades can look a little bit better? Yes, it is brighter in complete darkness. For a quick side-by-side comparison, on the left, Clone Wars Obi-Wan, and on the right, Episode 3 Obi-Wan, who is the shorter of the two. I'm okay with that because in my head canon, General Kenobi with his clone boots on should be a little bit taller. I prefer the proportions on the new one, and the head sculpt, and the fact that he doesn't have pleather boots on. With that being said, the episode 3 look I still think is the more iconic of the two. So, no matter which way you go, either figure has pros and cons. Ooh, this I don't mind at all. This is Clone Wars Darth Maul, who is shorter than General Kenobi. He's got his droid legs on, so who's to say how tall he really is? I'm sure somebody knows that fact, and you can just weigh in down in the comments section. This, I think, is a really good pairing. I'm tempted to have these two displayed together in the collection. I know, not everyone digs my custom Anakin sculpt, but I do. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day, right? We collect what we love, and I love this custom Anakin sculpt. For now, this is my live-action Hayden Christensen Anakin in the display. When we get the new Ahsoka one, then we'll see about replacing him. He is taller than General Kenobi, which is accurate. Next up, Season 7 live-action-ish Ahsoka Tano. This is Hot Toys' own interpretation of what a live-action Ahsoka would look like in this outfit. This was before we saw Ariana Greenblatt in costume in the Ahsoka series. She is shorter than Obi-Wan, and I prefer to have my Ahsoka posed up next to Anakin, although the trio might work pretty well. Not bad, not quite right, I don't think. It has been a while since I've seen Clone Wars, granted. I believe that when Obi-Wan was wearing this outfit, seeing as though he also comes with a Phase 1 helmet, Commander Cody was also in his Phase 1 armor. So Phase 2 Cody works better for me next to Episode 3 Obi-Wan. Same thing with Captain Rex. This is Hot Toys' own live-action Tamura Morrison interpretation of him. We do have an actual live-action version coming from the Ahsoka series, so we'll redo this comparison when that guy eventually releases. This has been one hell of a comparison segment. This is actually one of my favorite parts of doing reviews. I love comparing new figures to old ones, seeing if they work well together, and kinda getting a rough idea of how I'm going to display the new release in my collection. So I tried to grab as many figures as possible that made sense next to General Kenobi. Here we have Episode 3 Anakin, who, just like Clone Wars Anakin, is taller than Obi-Wan. Going over articulation, starting off with his head sculpt. It is on a double ball peg, but that's covered by a fixed rubbery neck, and it sits inside this rather high collar, so do be careful not to scuff the paint applications on the neck when you're trying to pose his head. Looking forward to there, looking up to there, swivel, and pivot side to side. His chest armor does flare out, so it should get out of our way. The shoulder pads are on elastic straps, so they will move around too. His arms will go up to there, going forward and back on soft ratchets, butterfly joint at the shoulder that hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow going just past 90, but you can adjust the bicep guard a little for a touch more range. Then for the wrist peg, a hinge and swivel. His torso crunches forward to there, going back to there, swivel, and pivot side to side. His legs will go forward to there. There's a surprising amount of padding for his thighs, considering you aren't really ever going to be able to see them anyway. Going out to there, swivel at the upper thigh. Ratcheted double bend at the knee going past 90, and a double ball peg down here for the ankles. Good for forward and back, swivel, as well as ankle tilt. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is... So, you know how on the box art they have the correct Phase 1 helmet with the very thin mouth lines, and this was also correct on the prototype? Well, not for the final product, because they've gone back to the thick mouth lines, and for the life of me, I can't figure out why. The second annoying thing is the stupid USB-C powered baselit lightsaber hilt. Number 1, they don't actually include a USB-C cable. Number 2, you have to store this junction box either on the figure or the crotch grabber. Number 3, the cable that connects to the hilt is very thick and you have to thread it through his outfit, and to do that, you have to pretty much undress him. And number 4, the light up effect isn't even all that impressive. At least it is brighter than some of their previous attempts. The third annoying thing is the hand selection. This is not some random unnamed clone trooper. This is General frickin' Kenobi. How does he not come with 2 open palm hands, closed fists, and 2 force push hands? The only ones that we get 2 of are the gripping hands. The first cool thing is how customizable his Phase 1 helmet is. You can remove the visor if you so choose, and you can also remove the antenna. It does leave behind a hole, but there is a hole on the other side anyway. The second cool thing is how easy it is to remove the cape. You don't have to mess around with press studs or Velcro, it's just on magnets. If you don't want it there, you simply remove it. The third cool thing may or may not land for you. It just depends on how you perceive Ewan to look in his Clone Wars armor in live action. I like that they pretty faithfully recreated the animated looking armor in 1/6 scale. If you'd have preferred for them to have gone with just normal clone armor instead of all the bespoke pieces like they've done, I get it. This, for me, is exactly what I pictured in my mind's eye for a live-action General Kenobi. Wrapping up on Hot Toys Obi-Wan Kenobi, based off his appearance in Star Wars The Clone Wars. Kinda. You see, this is Hot Toys' own interpretation of what Ewan McGregor would look like in the animated Obi-Wan Clone Wars outfit. I think the translation was pretty successful. Maybe not perfect, maybe not exactly what you had pictured in your mind's eye for a Clone Wars Obi-Wan, and I understand maybe this figure isn't for you. But he certainly is for me. This is a great release. It's not without its flaws, like the terrible design for the LED lightsaber and the inaccurate mouth on the Clone Trooper helmet. Everything else I'm on board with. The realistic looking proportions, the full fabric outfit, the very detailed lightsaber hilt, and the upgraded head sculpt compared to Episode 3, with moving eyes as well. So, at the end of this, do I recommend him? Will he make a fine addition to your Clone Wars collection? I think so. If you're looking at this guy right now and thinking, you know what? That's a really good looking General Kenobi. It's not 100% animation accurate, but it's a reasonable facsimile for what the animation look would look like in live action. Jump on it. I do not think you're going to regret it. The only other question is, cape on or cape off? You'll have to help me out in the comments section. Now, I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research, make sure you are comfortable before buying. I have popped a link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.